The movie begins with a boy named Sho who visits to spend some time with her granny at her house. Getting out of the car, when he goes to his house, he watches a cat playing with the plants. He possibly sees a tiny girl in the plants. That girl was hiding from him and the cat. Before he could know any details, his granny calls him, and he leaves. As Sho leaves, the girl surviving from the cat goes under a vent. It reveals out that under the vent she has a house near the trash box. Her name is Arrietty. She lives along with her parents. They collect the trivial things that even don't matter to humans after disappear. That's why they're called borrowers. It means who borrow things. After a while, we notice the dad of Arrietty who comes home after his borrowing work. He tells that a new boy lives above. Later on, Arrietty also tells her parents about the incident to her that happens to her at night while taking dinner. Her father makes her ready for her first day of borrowing work. Arrietty becomes excited and later on, she puts in some necessary goods and leaves for her mission with her dad. Here on a small place, a thread-like pulley was arranged. With the help of this pulley they went into a lab. Here Arrietty's dad has kept many instruments. They cut a double tape and apply it on their feet. In a while, Arrietty watches the giant people outside taking meal. At night, when all the people leave that place, they get into the kitchen. Arrietty, after watching such huge furniture, becomes shocked. Her dad points on a table at a distance, at which a sugar part was placed. He tells her that they have to reach there. After that, they get down with the help of a thread-like rope. Arrietty's dad, with the help of the tape on his feet, climbs on a table like a spider. They reach near the teapot. Arrietty, by following him, reaches to her dad. Her dad gives her a sugar cube that she keeps in her bag. She finds a pen lying down on the floor. Arrietty picks it up like a sword. Her dad says to Arrietty that it was her first borrowing. She becomes happy with this. Passing from a narrow path, they reach a place where tiny things of their size were there. A house was made. Arrietty's dad tells her that this is a man-made dollhouse. Coming out from the dollhouse, they pass near a tissue box. Arrietty notices that Sho stares at him. She becomes panicked and drops the sugar cube. Sho asks her not to be panicked. I have seen you in the morning. My mother has told me that tiny creatures live in this house. But she doesn't answer him. Later on, Arrietty and her father secretly go. Arrietty apologizes to her dad. Her dad warns her that now they have to be more careful. After that, Arrietty couldn't sleep at night. To relax, she sits outside. She notices Sho near the vent. He has kept something there. When she goes near, it was a sugar cube, and there was also a page there. She firstly takes it out without thinking, but later something gets into her mind. She goes from there by keeping it there. Later on, Arrietty's parents say that they should leave this place now. Probably humans know about us. Listening to this, her mother really becomes upset. Later on, her father says that they have to stop borrowing for some days. Neither will go out nor anyone would see us. We have to leave this house in some days. After a while, Arrietty goes to the sugar cube and notices numerous ants on that. She picks up that page. On it was written, "You have forgotten something." She goes to Sho for returning this page. She keeps that page in a window and says to leave her and his family. Sho says that he wants to help her and wants to see her. Arrietty was quite nervous, and in the meanwhile, a crow comes and attacks Arrietty. To rescue her, Sho comes near a window. Listening to this noise, his maid Haru too comes into a room. She starts to kill the crow, and Sho, for rescuing her, holds her in his hands. So, his maid couldn't see her. The maid drives that crow away and asks Sho that he'll have to take his medicines. During this conversation, Arrietty secretly leaves from there. When she was going back from the dollhouse, her dad watches her and becomes angry. He asks his wife that now they should leave from there. On the other side, we notice the maid. She had a doubt since a long time ago. Because of this, she demands the name and number of a press control from a courier company. At night, On the dinner table, we know that Sho has a heart disorder. He has an operation within some time. That's why he has come to his granny. He asks his granny about the dollhouse. She tells him that his grandfather has made this because he had a doubt that tiny creature live in this house. He wished them to live in this house. But in many years no one has used this house in these years. Later on, she shows him the house from inside. In that house, there was small furniture in the kitchen. There was everything for daily usage. It seems like a real house. On the other side, Arrietty becomes injured while borrowing. A tiny boy brings her back to the house. Arrietty for the first time notices another tiny boy. Her dad says that they have to leave this house soon. This tiny boy helps them in finding a new house. Arrietty doesn't want to leave this house. Her father tells her that 2 borrowing families lived here before, that disappeared. Suddenly her father tries to elucidate to her that they should leave this house soon. It might happen to us. While their conversation, their roof suddenly starts to shake. As their roof picks up, and someone keeps a new roof instead of an old one, it was an act of no one but Sho, who wants to make their house beautiful with the help of the dollhouse. Wanted to help them, but along with this Arrietty's family starts packing and ties their baggage. It was their departure time. Arrietty goes to Sho for goodbye. Their Sho is upset. He has seen Arrietty for the first time and says to her that you're the most beautiful girl in the world. He tells her that he wanted to help her and wanted to make her a friend. Later on, he tells her that about his medical condition. He thinks that it is because of him that Arrietty is leaving his house. He apologizes to her. On the other side, we notice when Maid was cleaning, she finds a floorboards. When she tries to keep that in the cupboard, the luggage falls out. She finds a small place on the floor. Opening that, she sees the dollhouse kitchen. Standing in the middle of that, Arrietty's mother was standing. She starts to scream after watching the maid. On the other side, Arrietty runs to rescue her when she hears her voice. Maid holds her mother and captures her in a box. She hides her in the kitchen between other boxes. She locks Sho in her room. She calls that press control company. She tells that there is a tiny creature in this house, and she has to capture them alive. Arrietty reaches in the kitchen. She understands that the roof of the house is decayed. Neither her mother was there. It means someone has grabbed her mother. She nervously goes to Sho and calls him out from the window. When Sho comes, she tells him how her mom is missing. Sho asks her to come with him. When they reached the door, it was locked. Later on, Sho goes from this window to another window where Arrietty takes advantage of her small size and opens the window. They go into the hall, and they watch the maid talking on the phone. They realize that this is an act of the maid. She has kept her mother secretly somewhere. The most often task of the maid was in the kitchen. Sho thinks that Arrietty's mother might be in the kitchen. Later on, they both go into the kitchen. They were looking around, and the maid appears. Meanwhile, she becomes nervous to see Sho out of his room. Afterward, Sho notices that she was looking at the door of the store. It means that she will have kept her mother there. Sho excuses here that he is hungry. The maid becomes busy in the preparation of the meal. He indicates Arrietty to find her mother from the store. Here, she gets down with the help of the rope. She gets busy to find the storeroom and reaches here difficultly. She calls her mom. As she listens to her voice, she calls her too. Arrietty notices her mother is stuck in a jar. Later on, she uses the pen as a sword and releases her mom. In a while, Sho too comes, and the mother of Arrietty becomes confused. Arrietty tries to elucidate to her mom that there is no danger from Sho. In a meanwhile, press control was to reach there. The maid, when sees them, she asks them to come in. Meanwhile, Granny too comes. The maid tells Granny that she has searched that tiny creature about you were talking. Later on, she goes with Granny to show their house, but there was nothing when they reach. Sho has already removed everything from there. Later on, the maid takes them towards the dollhouse, that their kitchen would be removed. But Sho has kept that back too. Later on, she says that she has captured one of them. When she takes off the jar Ariadne's mom wasn't there, the maid becomes nervous about all the happenings. Granny watches some leaves in a small jar. That she understands that the maid is probably right. Afterward, Sho tells his granny that they're neither bad nor thieves. They are called borrowers. The maid angrily asks the press controllers to go. As now, there is nothing to do here on the other side, we notice that Ariadne leaves from here along with her parents. They were staying at a place. Ariadne feels really down. Her dad says that the tiny boy will help us in reaching the new house. Ariadne feels bad enough that she goes out. There she sees the cat again. It seems like they were saying something with eyes. Later on, she goes to Sho and asks him to follow her. That tiny boy brings a tea kettle in which Ariadne and her family put their luggage, so that they could find a new place after going from here, and also arranges a new place to live. Meanwhile, Ariadne listens the voice of Sho, and she runs towards to say him final goodbye. She greets Sho and thanks him for helping to rescue his family. She wishes to him for his good operation. Sho gifts her sugar cube. After war, Ariadne puts of her hair clip and gives to Sho as a gift. After this they leave to spend a new life. The movie ends here.